Hello, welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with Misery. Chapter 5. The darkness had prolonged the pain and the storm cloud. He began to remember what had prologued in the darkness as she told him what had happened to him. This was shortly after he'd asked to take the traditional when the sleeper wakes question, and she told him he was in the little town of Sidewinder, Colorado. In addition, she told him she had read each of his 8 novels at least twice, and had read her very favorites, the Misery novels, 4, 5, maybe 6 times. She only wished she could write them faster. She said she'd hardly been able to believe that her patient was really that Paul Sheldon, even after checking the ID in his wallet. "Where is my wallet, by the way?" he asked. "I kept it safe for you," she asked, her smile suddenly collapsing into a narrow watchfulness he didn't like much. It was like discovering a deep crevasse, almost obscured by summer flowers, in the midst of smiling Jacon meadow. "Did you think I'd steal something out of it?" "No, of course not. It's just that the rest of my life is in it," he thought. "My life outside this room, outside the pain, outside the way time seems to stretch out like the long pink string of bubble gum a kid pulls out of his mouth when he's bored. Because that's how it is in the last hour or so before the pills come." "Just what, Mr. Man?" she persisted, and he saw that alarm with the narrow look was growing blacker and blacker. The crevasse was spreading as if an earthquake was going on behind her brow. He could hear the steady, keen whine of the wind outside, and he had a sudden image of her pricking him up and down over the shoulder, where he would lie in a burlap sack over a stone wall, and taking him outside and leave him into a snowdrift. He would freeze to death, but before he did, his legs would throb and scream. "It's just that my father told me to keep an eye on my wallet," he said, astonishedly how easily this lie came out. His father had made a career out of not noticing Paul any more than he absolutely had to, and so far Paul could remember offering him only a single piece of his advice in his entire life. On Paul's 14th birthday, his father had given him a Red Devil condom in a foiled envelope. "Put that in your wallet," Roger Sheldon said, "and if you ever get excited while you're making out of the drive-in, taking a second between excited to want and too excited to care that and slip on. Too many bastards in this world already, and I don't want to see you going in the army at 16. Now, Paul went on, "I guess he told me to keep my eye out on my wallet so many times that it's stuck inside for good. If I offended you, I'm truly sorry." She relaxed, smiled. The crevasse closed. Summer flowers nodded cheerfully once again. He thought of pushing his hand through the smile and encountering nothing but flexible darkness. "No offense taken. It's in a safe place. Wait, I've got something for you." She left and returned with a steaming bowl of hot soup. There were vegetables floating in it. He was not able to eat much, but he ate more than he at first thought he could. She seemed pleased. It was while he ate the soup that she told him what happened, and he remembered it all as she told him. And he supposed it was good to know how you happened to end up with your legs shattered, but with the manner by which he was coming to this knowledge was disquieting. As if he was creating a character in a story or play, a character whose history is not recounted like history but created like fiction. She had gone into Sidewinder in the 4-wheel drive to get a feed for the livestock and a few groceries, able to check out the paperbacks at Wilson's Drug Center. There had been the Wednesday that was almost 2 weeks ago, and the new paperbacks always came out on Tuesday. "I was actually thinking of you," she said, spooning soup into his mouth, wiping away a dribble from the corner with a napkin. That's what makes it such a remarkable coincidence, don't you think? I was hoping Misery's Child would finally come out in paperback, but no such luck." "The storm had been on its way," she said, "but until that noon the weather forecast had been confident claiming it would veer south toward New Mexico and the Sangre de Cristos." "Yes," he said, remembering as he said it. They said it would return, and that's why I went in the first place." He tried to shift his legs. The result was an awful bout of pain, and he groaned. "Don't do that," she said. "If you get those legs of yours talking, Paul, they won't shut up. And I can't give you any more pills for 2 hours. I'm giving you too much as it is." "Why aren't I in the hospital?" That was clearly the question that wanted asking, but I wasn't sure it was a question of either of them wanted asked. Not yet, anyway. When I got into the feed store, Tony Roberts told me I better step on if I was going to hit back before the storm hit, and I said, "How far are we from town?" he asked. "A ways," she said, vaguely looking off towards the window. There was a queer interval of silence, and Paul was frightened by what he saw in her face because he saw nothing. The black nothing of a crevasse folding into an airplane window, a blackness where no flowers grew and into which the drop might belong. It was the face of a woman who had come momentarily untethered from all the vital positions and landmarks of her life. A woman who had forgotten not only the memory she was in the process of recounting, but memory itself. He had once toured a mental asylum. That was years ago when he had been researching Misery, the first of the 4 books which had been his main source of income over the last 8 years. And he had seen this look, or more precisely this unlook. The word which was defined was catatonia, but what frightened him had no such precise word. It was rather a vague comparison. In that moment he thought her thoughts and feelings had become much as he had imagined in her physical self. Solid, fibrous, unchanneled, with no place of hiatus. Then her face cleared, though she seemed to flow back and more into it. Then he realized flowing was just a tiny bit wrong. She wasn't filling up like a pond or a tidal pool. She was warming up. Yes, she's warming up like some small electrical gadget, a toaster or maybe a heating pad. I said to Tony, that storm's going south. She spoke slowly at first, almost groggily, but then her words began to catch up to a normal cadence and to feel everything normal conversational brightness. But now he was alerted. Everything she said was a little strange, a little offbeat. Listening to Annie was like listening to a song being played in the wrong key. But he said it changed his mind. "Oh, poop," I said. "I'd better get my horse and ride." "I'd stay in town if you can, Ms. Wilkes," he said. "Now they're saying on the radio it's going to be a proper geezer and nobody's prepared." But of course I had to come back. There's no way to feed the animals but me. The nearest people are the Rhodymans, and they are miles from here. Besides, the Rhodymans don't like me. She cast an eye shrewdly on him as she said this at last, and when he didn't reply, she tapped the spoon against the rim of the bowl in the peremptory fashion. "Done?" "Yes, I'm full, thanks. It was very good. Do you have a lot of livestock?" "Because," he was already thinking, "if you do, that means you've got to have some help. Hired man at least." Help was the operant word. Already that seemed like an operant word, and he had seen no such wedding ring. "And not very much," she said. "Half a dozen laying hens, 2 cows, and Misery." He blinked. She laughed. "You won't think I'm very nice, naming a sow after the brave and beautiful woman you made up. That's her name, and I mean no disrespect." After a moment's notice, thought, she added, "She's very friendly." The woman wrinkled up her nose, and for a moment became a sow, even down to the few brisk winkers that grew her chin. She made a pig sound. "Boink, boink, 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 boink." Paul looked at her wide-eyed. She didn't notice. She had gone away again, her gaze dim and musing. Her eyes held no reflection but the lamp on the bed table, twice reflected, dwelling faintly in each. At last she gave a faint start and said, "I've got about 5 miles, and then the snow started. It came out fast. Once it starts up here, it always does. I came creeping along with my lights on, and then I saw your car off the road overturned." She looked at him disapprovingly. "You don't have your lights on." "It took me by surprise," he said, remembering only at that moment how he'd been taken by surprise. He did not yet remember that he had also been quite drunk. "I stopped," she said. "If I had been on an upgrade, I might not have. Not very Christian, I know, but there were 3 inches on the road already, and even with a 4-wheel drive, you can't be sure of getting on again once you've lost your forward motion. It's just easier to say to yourself, oh, they probably got a caught a ride, etc., etc. It was on top of the 3rd big hill past the Rhodymans, and it's flat there for a while, so I pulled over as soon as I heard it growing. That was you, Paul." She gave him a strange maternal grin. For the first time clearly, the thought surfaced in Paul Sheldon's mind. I am in trouble here. This woman is not right. And that's the end of that chapter. See you later.